This is the Business Storytelling Show, a top global marketing podcast listened to in more than 100 countries, live streamed on social media, and broadcast on DBTV. Christoph Trapp chats with industry leaders to help your company tell better business stories. Here's today's episode.
Episode 694, my friends. We're going to be talking about broken businesses today, solving problems in them. Now, what is a broken business? Why are they worth continuing to solve problems in? I mean, that's kind of the question I have. And so Chris Davenport, he helps businesses and their leadership teams get more out of what it is they're trying to do. But how do you do it? And why do we have to focus on businesses that are broken? That's my question for Chris. Let's get him on the show. Chris, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Now, I know you out doing just fine. You know, the weather here, it's like cold and warm at the same time. I don't know. People love the seasons, I guess.
Yes.
I mean, how about you?
Doing good. Weather's similar here and eating it up while it's here.
Eating it up while it's there. Now, tell me, why the focus? I mean, you suggested that title, focus on solving problems in broken businesses. Why is that a place to start, and why is that important?
It's important, you know, there's several business owners, and every business starts with an idea that an individual or a couple of individuals get together and they form an idea. And then they start their business, not really always thinking ahead of all of the problems that come into owning and running a business. And you know, you have some growth, you get some traction on your product or service, and inevitably something or some things that you have put in place are going to break, which ultimately results in pain for the individuals that own the business, pain for the customers potentially. And so that's why I focus on helping people fix their broken businesses.
You know, what's interesting to me too, when you talk about solving problems, I mean, I know you focus on fixing the root cause. And that's, I mean, you could probably focus like, I don't know, hours and hours upon that topic, but how do you even figure out, I mean, how do you even know what the root cause is? Because I mean, I've seen people, they're fixing all these things that are in their face, but it's actually not fixing the problem that's causing the bigger issue, right? Or am I just making that up?
No, that is exactly what happens. And you know, imagine yourself when you're in a business and you're fixing the problem, just as you said, right in front of you. But it's not the root problem. And it really takes being outside of the business or hovering above the business to being good at that to identify what the root cause or the root issue is that's causing the pain on the surface. Much like, you know, the iceberg, you know, there's I think 2/3 of it's underwater. Then you're only seeing a portion of that iceberg. And it's similar with issues. And more often than not, especially in the beginning, business owners, entrepreneurs, and their team members, they have to, just like playing a sport, they have to practice their problem solving part of their brain in order to dig down into that root cause, in order to solve it for the greater good of everyone involved.
You know, what's interesting to me too is when you're in a business, right? It's super easy to just kind of like, you're in the business, you go, like, task, right? I mean, even if I'm looking at my today, it's like, do this, this. Like, certainly, I mean, there's some time for strategy, I guess, here and there, but like 80% of the day is just go. This is what we're doing. How do leadership teams find that they have to fix something, or that, that they have to address? I mean, how do they even do that? How do they spot that? And how do they make the time, if they're also working in the business, so to speak?
Typically in the beginning, they are incentivized to get to the root and solve the problem through loss of revenue, loss of clients, or even loss of talent these days. It's difficult to find the right people. And once you get them, you want to make sure that, you're doing the right things as a business to retain your talent and your clients. And so that really changes the dynamic of, hey, I don't have time. It changes it from that to, well, if I don't stop and review what's going on, then time won't be my issue. It'll be sales, lack of sales, or the talent walking out of the door to your competitor.
Yeah, it's just so interesting how you make the time, how you figure it out, and whatnot. Now, when you talk about a broken business, like how at what time is it just time to walk away, or at what time is it time to fix something? And then, I mean, just to make this more complicated, how long does it actually take to fix things and get back on the right track? Is it kind of there's this woman on TikTok, and
Yep.
I don't know what she does. I'm sure she's selling some kind of services. Um, but she says the longer you stay on the wrong train, the more expensive the return ticket will be. And it's
That
so true, right? So,
that is
like, the
true.
longer you keep on that, I mean, it totally is true. Personal
Yeah.
levels, business levels, all levels. So,
Yep.
how do you know when it's just time to cut things, or to fix something, or maybe pivot? Like, what do you typically recommend?
What I recommend is, first and foremost, you have to make sure that you have a viable service or product that the market wants. That is the really the only major thing that cannot be fixed in a business. Um, because if your product is not desired or your service is not going well, then nothing's going to work past that. So assume that you have traction and you're in a good, market, and you have something that's marketable and it's working. I would say as long as you have that, and the company has the desire, the passion to continue providing that product or service, and that's their number one goal, is to provide whatever product or service they do. Then I would say stay on that train, uh, because it's also expensive to keep changing trains. I've been in that situation where you get off too early. Some of these, I've seen some graphics where there's a gentleman mining, and he quits right before he hits the gold, and somebody comes in after him, and three hits of the hammer and they're in. So if you're passionate about it and your product or service is viable, and you have the resources and you know what you're doing as far as delivering the product or service, keep at it. I would just say the reasons to go into something else or get on that different train would be around, hey, this product is not working. I can't find customers. I've tried everything. I've had a plan and I've executed on that plan. And so I would say that, it comes down to your viability of your product or service.
I mean, there's so many rabbit holes we can go down here, and what you just talked about is, I mean, one is you can't find your audience. I mean, just because you can't find your audience doesn't even mean it's a bad product. It could be a marketing problem, quite frankly, right?
Yes.
People just like whoever is in charge of your marketing, and they're not reaching the right people or the right strategies or whatever, right? I mean, or the audience might not be big enough. I mean, there was one website that it was a really good website, but I said, how many people worldwide actually do this? And I
Yeah.
think it was like 50,000 people or something, which not I mean, if that was B2B, maybe that's okay. But if that's
Yep.
B2C, like you're not going to make any money on that website, right? I mean,
Yep.
you just, even if you reach every single person,
Yeah. Yeah.
probably, well, unless they all pay $100 a month,
Yep.
whatever. So you have to kind of look at that. But then I also wonder about the timing. So, for example, I remember myself right here 15 years ago, I was helping a newspaper and I said, you should put the audio of the articles on top of the articles. And they all thought I was crazy. They looked at me like I'm nuts.
Yeah.
And and seriously, I would never go in that industry. I would never
Yep.
go into the audio industry like that. but there's entire industry. I mean, we've had probably 5 episodes about that whole thing, how like audio can now play back articles and this and this and this. But then they looked at me like I was crazy. And now there's people making millions or more. So how do you know when the timing might just be really close and you keep going, or it's 15 years off and it's not my industry anyway, so I'm not going to wait 15 years. But how do you kind of like, what tips do you have? Is it just how much runway you have or what?
I think it's fair to point out the runway piece of it, but a couple of other thoughts that come to mind as you're talking that I've used in my past and seen others succeed with is find your peers, find your group of people that you can become a part of that sell or do something similar to what you're selling, and that will be a wide spectrum of experiences from them, where you can figure out, hey, is this entire market just dead, or are we too early / too late, or is everyone else thriving except for me? And the second thing is you need to get in a room with your leadership team and your employees. Sometimes in the marketing side of things, and really dial in what your psychographic and what your demographic are of your customer. And because I think it's easy to go out there and use the shotgun approach and guess, and sometimes you get lucky. But with marketing, you've got to have a plan behind that for it to work well. And because marketing isn't just about putting an ad on Facebook, it's much more than that. And they need to take that second step and just really plan out who their customer is, what they look like from a psychographic standpoint, what drives them to their product or service, so they know how to speak to them, to speak to their pain or their wants and needs.
And you also have to try different things. And I know you and I are not in this business, but I'm going to certainly share this example. If you check out my TikTok or Instagram reel from over the weekend. So now you have these women in their 20s and they go on TikTok and they say, oh, you know who the hottest dudes are? Man, in their 40s and 50s, the dad bods,
Yeah.
whatever that means, so hot. And so what are all the dad buds doing? They go to her profile and they click the OnlyFans link.
Yep.
She does not think you are hot, my friends. I'm not talking to you, Chris, of course,
I
but
know.
she does not think you are hot.
Yeah.
Most of you probably couldn't even get a girl like that when you were that age. So,
Nope.
but what they're doing is it's actually a super fantastic marketing strategy, right? Because she's drawing you in. Let's build a relationship. I want to work with you. I like you, right? And then you're going to end up spending, I don't know, $9.99 per month on OnlyFans. But how do you figure out so somebody along the way must have figured out that works. How do people figure out some of these strategies that they work, and then you should just try them and rake in the cash?
What I've done in the past is, worked with some of my peers in the industries I've been in. But even if you don't have that, much like the example that you use, I'm sure what they did was somebody thought, hey, I bet this is an underserved market, that I could attract by saying, hey, you guys with dad bods, click on this link and I'll talk to you and give you attention. So they're after more attention. They're just looking for a connection, and so that they market specifically to that person, and their psychographic is that, hey, I'm single, I'm looking for attention, and so finding something like that clicks. So maybe you have a potential client that's looking for an insurance product, and this is after they have had to go through a lawsuit of some sort where they were not covered for that type of suit. And so you could market to those specific people saying, hey, have you ever been sued? Have you considered legal insurance to protect you in the future. And just going after people's pain points or people's wants and desires and really dialing in on that is how I've had success in the past on marketing.
Not to keep staying with that example, but what's interesting about that example too is it's a human, right? Like it's a person connecting or trying to connect with another person. And sometimes I think like the marketing is like too impersonal, right? It's just like, yeah, we're number one, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
how important is that to kind of bring the human back into it? And if you, I mean, it looks like you're agreeing with that, but if you do, how do companies do that?
You've got to really figure out what what are your unique abilities. What is unique about you and how you offer your product or service. We're a global economy now. You can order anything and it can be on your doorstep in 20, 40, 48 hours. So you need to figure out what makes you stand out when you're compared to people or businesses that do the same thing that you do. And so like you just said, hey, we're number one. I mean, anybody's going to say that. That's just table stakes. That's not enough to make it feel personal. And I think it only feels personal. It's not about what people say to us. It's about how it makes us feel. So, the marketing needs to have something in it that elicits a feeling in, the viewer to call them to a call of action of some sort to purchase or sign up. And, so I think that's why it feels so impersonal, because these companies, sometimes they go so broad that all they have to say really is, hey, we're a great company. We're number one. We're going to do a great job. Well, I would hope so. If I sign up for your product or service, that you're going to do all of those things. It takes more in this day and age to captivate someone and get them to take action.
It's just so interesting how how companies can make it work and how easy it is to fail and go down the wrong rabbit hole or wrong task or whatever. Now, I know you work with leadership teams, and sometimes you have people out there and arguing about, oh, servant leadership, ground up, blah 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 blah. But does it actually start with the leadership? And if so, how? I mean, why does it start with the leadership, or should it they have to set the course, right? They have to set
Yeah,
the culture, they have to live it, et cetera, or not.
that's right. I would say that they set it, but I like to think of the entire company as a reflection of the values. So when I get leaders in the room together to come up with things like core values and culture, and this is an exercise we go through regularly. You take your best team members, leadership or not, and you think of the qualities that stand out about those individuals, and that's where we dig to get the core values and the culture roadmap of an organization. So it's not just the leadership per se, but when it comes down to it, it is about the leaders setting the tone of the culture and the values, and holding that line, holding everyone accountable and themselves accountable to that line to maintain that culture. But it's definitely all the people in the organization have an impact on what culture could be. And great leaders look at great team members and take examples from them to really paint a picture of what they want culture to be like in their company.
And how do you feel about communication by executives? I mean, the example I was going to give is, well, they say, "Oh, we're like family. Just do your best, whatever." And then the next day, there's mass layoffs. Maybe that's actually not the best example because there's plenty of families that split up, right? So,
Yeah,
I mean, maybe that is treating people like family. I don't know, but
yeah,
um, like, how about the communication? I mean, sometimes some leaders, right? They come across maybe not as authentic, even though maybe they are. And then you have some, they come across as authentic and they're not authentic at all. So how do you kind of maneuver that to get the right message out and get people on board?
What I recommend to leaders is to do what you say you're going to do. Another way to say it is, hey, if you're going to talk the talk, walk the walk. And a lot of times, I think that your example that you were referring to, leaders, sometimes will say one thing, and then all of a sudden, the script is immediately flipped in everybody's mind, and like, well, what are you doing? You're laying off now? You just said yesterday we were all family on the same team. So I think as leaders, we need to be very concise and clear on our communication with the people that work with us. And people need direction. They crave it, and they need to know what great looks like, so they know what they're going after to achieve. They need to know, what's happening within reason, and be communicated with regularly. I think a good leader, instead of having mass layoffs like that after saying a statement of that nature, there would have been some warning or runway on, hey, our numbers last quarter weren't what we expected. We may have to make some adjustments. No changes for now, but there may be changes coming next quarter if things don't turn around. So it's clear that, hey, okay, we're having a dip. Something might happen, but everything is status quo for the moment. We just need to push harder. It's just an example.
Yeah, I think talking freely like that is really hard for a lot of people. Of course, if your company's pretty big, you can just go to, I don't know what department it is in the state, the workforce development probably, and look at the WARN notices, and you can
Yep.
see it right there. That's a trick.
Yep.
I think it's over 100 people. Now, we only got about a minute left here, so really interesting. Really appreciate you coming on the show. But kind of tell me, who should reach out to you? Who works with you? What kind of company? What size? And then how do you help them?
I work with individuals that are aspiring to be entrepreneurs. I also work with entrepreneurial teams. So anywhere from 5 to 300 employees, $1 million or more in revenue, typically on the team side. And I basically have a system that I take them through to build out a foundation of great tools to help them achieve their goals, get their culture right, and just to where they can execute quarter after quarter and help them solve problems. Teach them all of these tools so they have them going forward. And if anybody's interested, they can go to my website at chd2.com. I actually have a free meeting in there where we go through some of the things, the challenges you're going through, some of the goals you're looking to do, and I help everybody that comes to me in one way or another. So I'd love to have the opportunity to work with y'all.
Fantastic. Thanks for coming on the show, and reach out to Chris, chd2.com. We're out.
Thanks for tuning in. Please rate and review the Business Storytelling Show on your favorite podcast platform